Well, thank you so much, Sam, and it is truly a great pleasure to be here with you all today. I'd like to acknowledge Bishop Sanchez. I'd also like to acknowledge Gabriella. Thank you for all your hard work organizing this incredible event. And I'd like to specifically acknowledge Professor Jeffrey Sachs and the Sustainable Development Solutions Network for convening this important gathering in Rome. Professor Sachs, you've been an incredible mentor and friend to me and our whole organization since we first started, and we frankly wouldn't be here today without you. So thank you so kindly. What an incredible setting today to explore such an important issue as securing a sustainable future for generations to come. And I'm excited today to share with you our goal of building the world's largest possible movement to tackle and overcome the world's greatest challenges and achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. At Global Citizen, our goal is not so much to raise awareness for the global goals, but instead to drive actionable outcomes to help achieve them by 2030. We think that awareness by itself is passé, but action that promotes policy change can lead to long-term sustainable impact. And for me, I was drawn to advocate for the issues of extreme poverty in my early years of high school in Melbourne, Australia, that Sam mentioned. When I was 12 years old, my classmates and I started raising money for communities in the developing world. We were a really enthusiastic group of kids, and we raised more money than any other school in Australia. And I was awarded the chance to go to the Philippines to learn more. It was 1998. We were taken into a community in the outskirts of Manila, and it was there I became friends with this young guy by the name of Sonny Boy, who lived on what was literally a pile of steaming garbage. Smoky Mountain was what they called it, but please don't let the romance of that name fool you, because it was nothing more than a rancid landfill that kids like Sonny Boy spent hours rummaging through every single day to try to find something, anything of value. And that night I spent with Sonny Boy and his family changed my life forever. See, when it came time to go to sleep, we lay down on a concrete slab half the size of my bedroom. Myself, Sonny Boy, and the rest of his family, 7 of us in this long line, with the smell of garbage and cockroaches crawling all over us that night. You know, why should anyone have to live like this when we have so much? Why should Sonny Boy's ability to live out his dreams be determined by where he was born, or what Warren Buffett calls the ovarian lottery? I just didn't get it at that age, and I needed to understand why. Now, I only later came to understand that the poverty I'd seen in the Philippines was the result of decisions made or not made, man-made, by a succession of colonial powers and corrupt governments who had anything but the interests of Sonny Boy at heart. They didn't create Smoky Mountain, but they may as well have. And if we were to help people like Sonny Boy, it wouldn't work just to send him some money or to try to clean up the garbage dump on which he lived, because the core of the problem lay elsewhere. And as I worked on community development projects over the next few years, trying to help build schools, train teachers, tackle HIV and AIDS, I came to see that community development should be driven by communities themselves, and that although charity is necessary, it's never sufficient. We need to confront these challenges on a global scale and in a systemic way, and the best thing I could do was try to mobilize a large group of my friends and citizens to insist that our leaders engage in that sort of systemic change. That's why a few years later I joined with a group of college friends to bring the Make Poverty History campaign to Australia. We had this dream of staging this small concert with local Aussie artists, and it suddenly exploded one day when Bono, The Edge, and Pearl Jam agreed to headline our show that day in Melbourne. As you can see, I got a bit too excited that day. It was my first ever concert. And to our amazement, the Australian government heard our collective voices. They agreed to double investment in global health and development, additional $6.2 billion. It felt like this incredible validation. By rallying people to put pressure on our leaders, we persuaded them to do the unthinkable and act to fix a problem miles outside of our borders. But here's the thing. It didn't last. See, there was a change in government, and 6 years later, all of that new money disappeared. What did we learn? We learned that one-off spikes are not enough. We needed a sustained movement, not one that's susceptible to the fluctuating moods of an individual politician or the hint of an economic downturn. And it needed to happen everywhere. Otherwise, every individual government would have this built-in excuse mechanism. They couldn't possibly carry the burden of global action alone. So how could we create enough pressure and build a broad enough army to win these fights for the long term? We could only think of one way to do this. We need to somehow turn that short-term excitement of people who supported the Make Poverty History campaign into long-term passion. It had to become part of their identity. So in 2012, we co-founded an organization that had exactly that as its goal. And there was only one name for it: Global Citizen. But this is not about any one organization. It's about individuals taking action. And the research data tells us that of the total population who even care about global issues, only 18% have done anything about them. It's not that they don't want to, it's often that they don't know how to, or because they believe they can have no effect. So we had to somehow recruit and activate millions of citizens in dozens of countries to demand that their leaders begin acting on behalf of all of humanity. And as we did so, we quickly discovered something really thrilling. That when you make global citizenship your mission, you suddenly find yourself with some really extraordinary allies. See, extreme poverty isn't the only issue that's fundamentally global. So too are human rights, climate change, gender equality, even conflict. We found ourselves shoulder to shoulder with people who are passionate about tackling these interrelated issues. We partnered with the United Nations and with Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed to help launch the 17 Sustainable Development Goals with 169 indicators designed to end extreme poverty, tackle inequality, and tackle climate change. But how did we go about recruiting and activating global citizens? Well, we used the universal language: music.
You are now part of the global fight to end extreme poverty. And this concert is all about giving back to the world.
What is Global Citizen? Global Citizen is actually a digital platform. You go to globalcitizen.org and you start taking action in support of issues that you care about. You can take action on some of the greatest global challenges of our time, and all of these actions earn you points, and you can use these points to enter the Global Citizen Festival for free.
We tweeted and called politicians and senators, and we also signed lots of petitions about various global events going on.
I knew Global Citizen was an incredible festival. Download the Global Citizen app. It's so easy. They'll tell you everything you have to do.
Everyone beats down the door of the Global Citizen to perform because it's unlike anything else. The 60, 70,000 people have earned their way to be there.
You can't buy your way into this thing. It's not just talking the talk, you have to actually walk the walk.
I am so proud to be inspired by all of you tonight.
Only all the countries together will achieve the goals of peace.
I want you to call me. I want you to tell me what you've gone through as a woman or a girl in the world that's been suffering.
We're sending tweets to Norwegian Prime Minister Erna Solberg. And if they agree to increase their support for the Global Partnership for Education, the rest of the world will follow.
Norway has committed $250 million for next year.
We will contribute $360 million.
Education is a basic human right.
These are our girls. They deserve the same chances to get an education as my daughters and your daughters and all of our children.
I look out and I see a sea of global citizens. We can change the world.
As you saw, we enlisted some of the world's biggest artists to participate, and we made sure these festivals coincided with the UN General Assembly meetings so that leaders who need to hear the voices of citizens couldn't possibly ignore them. But there was a twist. See, you couldn't buy a ticket, you had to earn it. You had to take action on behalf of a global cause, and only once you'd done that could you qualify for a ticket. Activism is the currency. See, I had no interest in global citizenship purely as some sort of feel-good sort of thing. For me, citizenship means you have to act, and that's what we required. And amazingly, it worked. Globally, people have signed on now in over 150 countries, and we're now engaging more than 25 million people around the world with our content, campaigns, advocacy each month in support of the Sustainable Development Goals. At Global Citizen, we wholeheartedly believe that we don't need to accept global inequality or Goal 3, inadequate health care, or Goal 4, education for children, or Goal 5, the unequal treatment of women and girls, as beyond our capacity to fix. See, these crises didn't emerge in a vacuum. We're not hapless victims of fate. Over hundreds of years, in ways big and small, the actions of policymakers have created the world in which we find ourselves. And at Global Citizen, we live by the creed that when humans are responsible for creating these crises, it follows that we must have it within ourselves the power to resolve them. And now there's no denying the short-term good that an individual can do by sending money or donating their time to volunteer. But in the scope of global change, we're talking about Band-Aids for bullet wounds. Total philanthropic investment, I'm talking just purely philanthropic, into the Sustainable Development Goals equals a mere $60 billion per annum. Yet the most conservative estimate of actually addressing just the top 5 Sustainable Development Goals comes with at least a $260 billion a year price tag. This will not be solved through black tie gala dinners. The political and economic system must be part of the solution. And this past year, in response to the urgent need to get 264 million children into school, we launched a campaign to improve access to quality education. We knew that there are 125 million children who are currently out of school, and we saw that education was historically the poor cousin of global development. So you can see here, since 2008, if you exclude the data from this year, overall aid has grown by a quarter, yet aid to education has dropped by 19%, while aid to health has gone up by 58%. We need renewed enthusiasm from donors to get children into school. If the current trends continue, then 15 million girls and 10 million boys would never set foot inside a classroom. That's why 2 years ago we launched a global campaign with the artist Rihanna to convince world leaders to contribute more resources to the Global Partnership for Education and Education Cannot Wait. This is the campaign we launched. You can check it out.
Education is the best investment we can make for a prosperous, peaceful, equitable and future-ready world. For this, GPE is joining forces with Global Citizen, the Clara Lionel Foundation and its founder, our new global ambassador, Rihanna.
I don't worry that I don't eat in the morning because I believe in the future when I will be a businessman, I will have more food.
In Malawi, 70% of students get into primary school, but only 8% get to complete secondary school. And that's a huge issue.
The dropouts that are coming out because of poverty.
The challenges that girls face is long distances. A girl might travel 13 kilometers away from home just one way.
I really feel that nothing is more important for our future than education.
We want to raise $3.1 billion for the coming years.
So Rihanna launched her Twitter storm targeting Emmanuel Macron of France. He invited Rihanna and the team to meet with him at the Palais d'Élysée in Paris, and ultimately made a commitment to co-host the Replenishment Summit in Dakar, Senegal, earlier this year that secured $2.4 billion in new financing and pledges. And obviously there's still a long way to go, but that's where we're at right now in this fight to ensure every child gets access to a quality education. So where are we? We run some amazing events. Citizens are signing up all over the world. We've scored some big policy wins. But have we achieved our mission? No. We have such a long way to go. But this is the opportunity that I see. We as global citizens now have a unique chance to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, but only if we can build the political will. So in the months and years ahead, we can hold world leaders accountable to ensure that the global goals for sustainable development are tracked and implemented. We can advocate to ensure that the G7 and the G20 step up in 2019 in the fight to not just eradicate extreme poverty, but also to tackle climate change. Global citizens can join this movement in every corner of the globe, increasing the frequency, quality, and impact of our actions. And I truly believe our dreams are within reach. Imagine an army of millions growing into tens of millions, connected, informed, engaged, and unwilling to take no for an answer. Now, over all these years, I've tried to reconnect with Sonny Boy from the Philippines. And for the past 20 years, I was unable to find him. But amazingly, last year, all of that changed. See, we met long before the age of social media, and I lost his address when I was a kid. But last year, a lady from an organization who works on Smoky Mountain in the Philippines saw my TED Talk and reached out and said she thinks she knows where Sonny Boy is. So last year, I had the privilege of reconnecting with him in the Philippines, in Manila. Thanks to him and so many others, I came to understand the importance of being part of a movement of people, the kids willing to look up from their screens and out to the world, the global citizens. And as I look around this room here in the Holy See, I see a committed group of citizens, the next generation of NGO leaders representing organizations that are committed to being part of the solution. Now, our current global political climate might seem strange and uncertain, but here I see people willing to do the right thing. And if all of us band together with loud voices willing to do the right thing, truly we can change the world. And so I implore you today and over the days ahead, but more importantly over the years ahead, this is a marathon, not a sprint. And for this marathon, I urge you to take action to achieve the global goals. We've got 12 years to do it. And truly, it's only going to be a movement of young people that will achieve these goals together. Thank you for your time today. Thank you.